What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast with Joey Mayalari. I had my second episode uploaded a couple days ago now before the Orioles Avalanche Game 1, and wasn't able to cover a ton besides the NHL Playoffs, not because of time. So in this episode today, I'm going to start by commenting on the Red Sox recent struggles in the series against Baltimore. They ended up winning Game 2 of the two-game series against the Reds. But I'm going to talk about the Red Sox offense and how it stalled for a few games. Following that, I will recap the Celtics-Heat series and how the Celtics ended up taking the series in 7 and punching a ticket to the NBA Finals for the Celtics' first trip to the NBA Finals since 2010. I'll give my predictions for the series and preview what to expect from Golden State and their superstar Steph Curry, along with the rest of their bench and the rest of their star players. After that, I will break down Team USA's hockey bronze medal game against Czechia in the IIHF World Championship Tournament and discuss Adam Gaudette and how well he played leading the Americans in goals and points. At the end, I will dissect the CAA baseball tournament and how Northeastern performed, and we'll follow that up with covering the whole landscape of college baseball with the NCAA baseball tournament beginning tomorrow. So for the Red Sox, to start off, last week when I was on there playing the Chicago White Sox, they stayed very hot in that series. The offense was scoring runs a ton. The Red Sox had 16 runs in 2 of the 3 games against Chicago. But now over the last 5 or 6 games, the Red Sox had a 5-game series against Baltimore, then played the Reds for a couple games. It felt like something was different with the Red Sox offense. Something stalled. Something was slowing them down. They had a 5-game series against Baltimore, which is a great opportunity to hopefully go 4-1 and improve your standings within the AL East. But, of course, naturally, that just doesn't happen. It was a tough series for the Sox, honestly. And there's a few guys I'm going to talk about that were struggling offensively over the last few games. One guy that wasn't struggling, and it's not his fault, Jackie Bradley Jr. in his last 5 games before the doubleheader against Baltimore. So the doubleheader was a few days ago now. Not a few days ago, excuse me. It was Saturday. He was 7 of 18, hitting .389 with a 1.032 OPS, had 4 doubles, a walk, and an RBI, and a run scored in the 5 games before that doubleheader on Saturday. And then May 22nd to May 29th, in those 8 games, he was 10 of 27, hitting .370, had 5 doubles, hit 2 runs in, and had 949 OPS. So then, heading into last night's game with the Reds, JBJ was 0 of 5 his last 2 games and still was hitting .303 over his last 10 games with the 822 OPS. Last night, he went 2 of 4 with a huge bases-clearing triple in the 8th inning to give the Sox a comfortable lead. Ended up being the runs the Sox needed. The Sox ended up winning that game. Now the Red Sox are 4-1-1 in their last 6 series. So even though things didn't go well, obviously, as well as we'd hoped in the Baltimore series, the Red Sox still, 4-1-1 in their last 6 series. A lot better of an improvement compared to what they were doing in April, and also in the beginning of May. In the last 2 games, though, we faced Baltimore, the last 3 games, I should say, because we faced Baltimore and then 2 games against Cincinnati. And the last 2 games, that the Red Sox played, and we faced Baltimore, last 3 games. We faced Baltimore, who was the fourth worst record in the AL, and Cincinnati, who was the 3rd worst win percentage in the MLB. We were outscored on the Monday Red Sox game and the Tuesday Cincinnati game, 12-1. They beat us 10-0, the Orioles, in the final game of the 5-game home series. And the Sox have been only shut out 3 times this year. So scoring 0 runs for the Red Sox, not scoring anything, doesn't happen too often. Even with how much we were struggling, we've only been shut out 3 times this year. But the offense has been stagnant. The Red Sox blew Friday night's game against Baltimore. Sox were up 8-2, ended up losing the game 12-8. The bullpen, which I was praising a ton last week for how well they were playing over, an 8 to 10 game stretch, really imploded. Now it feels like we're back to the same Sox team we saw struggle for the majority of the early part of the season, and that's an issue considering the fact that we were playing so well. So everyone's expectations for players, the team, our opportunity to keep rising, everything. We were so high on everything, and now, our views of how well the Sox team can play, come playoff time, and can everyone stay hot. Everyone's expectations are now falling again, just going back to the way we were playing earlier in the season. There's another guy, it's not his fault, Rafael Devers. He's still raking and hitting a ton. Before last night's game against Cincinnati, he was hitting .400 over his last 6 games with the home run and 5 runs scored. On the other hand, though, J.D. Martinez, going into last night's game, has cooled off over the last 5 games, hitting just .222 with a .278 slugging percentage. Alex Verdugo, before last night's game as well, has cooled down. Also, he was just 2 of 16 in his last 4 games with a .125 batting average, a .250 OPS over that 4-game stretch. He was 2 of 4 last night, so he recovered well, but he was struggling for a little bit over a 4-game stretch. And then the biggest cool down is Trevor Story, who's the hardest hitter on the planet at one point. His last 7 games now, before last night, he was hitting .160, 4 of 25 at the plate, with a .620 OPS, struck out 11 out of 25 times at the plate over that 7-game stretch, and only hit 1 home run. Comparing to his last 8 games before that, so his last 8 games before this, 7-game stretch, he was slugging 1.065 OPS with a .355 batting average, hitting 7 home runs, driving in 18 runs in that 8-game stretch, and hitting .355 compared to the .160 he's now hitting in the last 7 games. So with Story cooling down, that's not what the Red Sox really wanted or needed. And then Xander Bogaerts, over his last 9 games before last night's game against Cincinnati, he was hitting .303 heading into last night's game with 5 RBI. So he stayed pretty hot. I know he had a tough month of April, but over the last 9 games, hitting .303 with 5 RBIs, he'll take that, considering how bad he was in May, which wasn't even that bad. I think he was hitting around like .260. But compared to how hot he was in April, he definitely cooled down. Christian Vasquez stayed hot the whole month of May, finished the month with a .356 batting average, a .919 OPS, and 16 runs batted in. He was 13 of 29 heading into last night's game. In his last 7 games. So heading into last night's game, in his last 7 games, he was hitting 13 of 29, .482 batting average with a home run, 9 runs batted in, and a .1258 OPS. The Sox hit 5 home runs on Sunday to beat the Orioles 12-2. That was a really good game. Pivetta went a strong 6 innings for the Sox, allowing just 1 run and striking out 5 Orioles batters. That improved his record of 4-4 on the year. The Sox need him pitching well. Pivetta had a really good early start to the 2021 season, and then kind of fell off towards the middle. Him being at 4-4 right now, the Red Sox will take. Hopefully he keeps improving. But then on Monday night, the Red Sox got blown out on Memorial Day, 10-0. That was a night game. And the Sox now, they finished that series, a 5-game series against Baltimore, which they really needed to win 4. I wanted to go 4-1 in that stretch. I felt like it would have been a good way for the Red Sox to get back on track. Of course, only take 2 of 5. So they go 2-3 against the Orioles in that series. And then on Tuesday night against the Reds Sox lose 2-1. The bats were struggling once again. And that's the thing. The Reds, who have been playing better of late, 14-13 they were in May, but 3-18 in April. Those are just games you have to win. The Reds were 14-13 in May, so I know they were playing better baseball over the last month. But 3-18 in April just shows how vulnerable a team and how weak of a team they were in April. The Red Sox got to take advantage of that. And I wish they won both games of the 2-game series, but they ended up winning last night on Wednesday night to split that series 1-1. Luis Castillo stoned the Red Sox on Tuesday night. He went 6 innings, allowing just 1 hit, no runs, walked 3 batters, and struck out 10 Sox batters. The Sox finished a 2-game series, as I said, 1-1 against Cincinnati, and then 2 out of 5 they took from the Orioles. So 2-3 in the Orioles series, 1-1 in the Reds series. 2 of the worst teams in baseball, as I said. The Red Sox needed to have played better in those 2 series. I would have liked to gone 5-2, 6-1 I would have loved, but 5-2 I would have been psyched with, and we end up with 3-4, unfortunately. As for the Red Sox upcoming trip, they'll now be heading for a West Coast trip to face 2 struggling AL West teams in Oakland and Seattle, along with the LA Angels, who have been struggling as of late. They've been 3-7 in their last 10, but it'll still be electric to see Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. I'm a big fan of the 2 of them, and I hope they continue to tear it up. Since baseball's a lot better when those 2 guys are healthy and are playing and are in the same lineup. It's kind of like sports in general are better when New York teams are playing better. It's the same for stars in the game of baseball, in sports in general. When your guys are healthy, the top players like Mike Trout, like Shohei Ohtani, the game's just a lot better to watch, a lot better to follow, especially with those 2 guys being such big superstars and being in the same lineup. You're going to drag people in to watch games every single night just because of how prolific those 2 players are. Anyways, Matt Barnes, who I highlighted in my first episode for his disastrous stats after signing a 2-year extension last summer with the Red Sox, was placed on the injured list yesterday with right shoulder inflammation. Matt Strahm was activated from the COVID list. I think it's just probably a way for Matt Barnes to clear his mind and try to get him back to work on his mechanics and take some time off to get his head right, since he's been playing so poor of late over the last year, just about now, last 11 months. Moving on, the biggest story I'm probably going to talk about, the Boston Celtics defeating the Miami Heat in 7. Tonight is Game 1 of the NBA Finals at Golden State at 9 o'clock is tip-off. My prediction of Celtics in 7 over the Heat was correct. After Game 4, I came on for my first episode last week. I had the Celtics winning in 7 games over the Heat. Celtics ended up defeating Miami on Sunday night in Game 7. One thing that I just want to talk about really quick is just crazy to think about how much a Celtics team improved over the course of this season. The Al Horford trade was the biggest move that the Celtics could have made in the last 5 years, and when that trade with Oklahoma City went down, everyone, including myself, saw it as just a salary dump, and it's hard not to think of it as a salary dump. Al Horford was sitting on the bench in Oklahoma City, wasn't playing towards the end of the 2021 end of that season. They were benching a lot of their veterans in Oklahoma City just to give a lot of the young guys time to develop. So Al Horford was sitting on the bench for the last 3 or 4 months of last season. And then Kemba Walker, who we traded to Oklahoma City, we had to throw a first-round pick in there as well, who we traded to Oklahoma City, was hurt for a good amount of his time with the Celtics. And factor in both these guys were getting overpaid. Kemba was getting 33 or 34 and million a year, and that's similar to what Al Horford was getting. I think Horford was getting around 30. It was just a salary dump, what a lot of people saw it as, including myself. I thought Al would be a good bench piece for the Celtics, but he proved to be a lot more than just a bench piece. He's a very crucial part of this team, very crucial part of the starting lineup, and a big reason the Celtics are returning to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2010. And Kendrick Perkins pointed out yesterday that the Celtics were 18-21 and the 11th overall place in the Eastern Conference on January 6th. At that time, the Celtics still had, think about this, at that time the Celtics still had Romeo Langford, Josh Richardson, Dennis Schroeder, and Enes Kanter, all of whom were getting minutes and playing time at that time, at that point in the season. And for all of them, it seems like years ago they were wearing a Celtics jersey. I don't even remember Josh Richardson and Dennis Schroeder wearing a Celtics jersey. It just seems like a whole new Celtics season began once they went on that hot stretch and never really cooled off. And something flipped in the Celtics locker room. They really just locked in. I think Ime Udoka has a huge part of why the Celtics have been playing so well. I think he's a huge reason for it. But something flipped in the Celtics. At the end of the day, Ime Udoka is a great coach, but it is on the players to go out there and execute. And something flipped for them in the locker room, where they all gelled together. They're all playing together, playing hard for each other. That's what you needed. The Celtics needed that. And I'm going to break down a few of the games, Game 5, 6, and 7, very quickly. Game 5, Celtics won 93-80, like I predicted. Like Paul from Southie predicted as well. He came on last week as my first guest. I had the Celtics winning in 7 games, so the Heat winning in Game 6 and the Celtics winning Game 7 were all in line with my predictions. In Game 5, the Celtics had 6 blocks. Robert Williams had 3. I think he's the biggest X factor on this Celtics team. Biggest X factor for this series against Golden State. He's the only one listed on the Celtics injury list. Marcus Smart's not on there for the Game 1 tonight against the Warriors, so just shows that everyone's healthy except Rob. I'm sure Marcus Smart's still a little banged up, but we all know Marcus Smart. He's not going to ever sit out if he can play. Anyways, Rob Williams added 6 points and 10 rebounds in Game 5, was great in the minutes he played. Jimmy Butler just didn't have it in Game 5. 13 points off 4 of 18 shooting from the field. Miami's team was cold from 3, though. It wasn't just Jimmy. Miami shot 7 of 45 from 3 in Game 5, which came out to be 15.6% from three-point range. Kyle Lowry, supposed to be the second or third star alongside Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler was 0 of 6 from the field in Game 5, scored 0 points. And then no Tyler Herro. That was really tough for Miami. No Tyler Herro. A banged-up Jimmy Butler, who still gave it his all when he could play, and an injured P.J. Tucker, who was fighting through injuries as well. I still knew Miami would wake up, though, and win Game 6 in Boston in order to force a Game 7, since I felt like they were just such a resilient team, even with not having as much health or talent. Celtics team definitely was more talented and was the better team, but you had to think Jimmy Butler and the Heat would wake up in Game 6. And the story of Game 6 was Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Buckets was unreal. There's no other way to put it. 46 minutes played, 16 of 29 from the field, 11 of 11 from the free throw line, had 47 points, 9 rebounds, dished out 8 assists, had 4 steals, a block, and only 1 turnover. And I think the most impressive stat of all of those, of the 47, 9, 8, 4 steals, block, and a turnover, is the 1 turnover. That's very impressive. In 46 minutes of play, he touches the ball just about every single play and only had 1 turnover. And he was scoring at will. I mean, he was driving down the lane. Everything was going for him on that in that Game 6. And that's the thing. He had 47 points, outscoring his total from the previous 3 games. Games 3, 4, and 5, he only totaled 27 points in those 3 games. And then at 47 in Game 6. And from an ESPN statistic I saw, they said that Jimmy Butler scored or assisted on 10 of Miami's 15 points in clutch time of Game 6, which proves just how much of a factor Jimmy Butler was and how much he took over Game 6. It wasn't just Jimmy, too, though. Kyle Lowry responded well in Game 6 after having 0 points, which I just highlighted in Game 5. He had 18 points off 4 of 9 shooting from the field, 4 of 9 shooting from the 3-point range. He had 10 assists, 4 rebounds, even added a block and a steal. He ended up fouling out with just about 2 minutes to go, but it was no problem for Jimmy Butler, who followed it up with a full court and 1 drive. Just took all the momentum away after that. I think it was a tie game, too, when Lowry fouled out. For the Celtics, one thing that was odd in Game 6 was that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown disappeared in the fourth quarter. That's just no other way to put it. Tatum was 1 of 1 from the field in the fourth. Jaylen Brown and Tatum combined for 1 field goal attempt in the first 11 minutes of the fourth quarter. And that's just unacceptable. Those are your 2 stars. Those are the 2 guys that need the ball in crunch time. And they were letting guys like Grant Williams and Marcus Smart and Derek White take all the fourth quarter shots. That can't happen. They were no-shows. Tatum and Brown were no-shows in the fourth quarter of crunch time. But I'll say this, they responded well in Game 7. But as for Game 6, though, Jaylen only had 2 points in the second half. He missed 2 massive free throw attempts in a tie game with 2 minutes to go in Game 6. But Celtics still end up winning Game 7, so I guess all's well that ends well. Ime Udoka actually is the first rookie head coach to win multiple Game 7s. Game 7 of the Miami Heat Boston Celtics series was the most viewed ESPN broadcasted conference finals game in 4 years with 12.1 million viewers. In Game 7, the Celtics and the Heat essentially both ran 7-man rotations. Peyton Pritchard and Tyler Hero did play, a few minutes for each team. I'd include them in the 7. Hero did return after missing the previous 3 games and only played 2 minutes. I only played 7 minutes, excuse me. Pritchard only played 2 minutes, but Hero only played 7 minutes in his return for the Heat. And he didn't look like himself out there, to be honest. You could tell he was struggling. You could tell he was pushing that groin to the best he could. He was 0 of 2 from the field. Did add a block on defense, but you could just tell he was laboring and trying to play. So 7-man rotations for both the Heat and the Celtics. Since Pritchard and Hero didn't play too much, I mean, they were the 8th guys on both teams that stepped foot on the court, but neither one of them played in any big moment. As for Game 7, though, Miami shot very poor from 3-point land once again. 6 of 30 from the 3, 20%. The Celtics opened the game on a 24-9 run. They led Miami 32-17 after the first quarter. But here's the thing. The one thing I think the Celtics might have a problem with in this series against Golden State is the Celtics offense in the later minutes, in the latter minutes of the game, the last few minutes. It has been tough for the Celtics to try to put games away. Celtics are up 13 with 3 minutes and 35 seconds to go against the Miami Heat in Game 7. But, of course, Miami would storm back with a couple made baskets from Kyle Lowry, a dunk and a crazy 3 from Max Strus, who came around the wing and shot a 3 off a screen with no room. It was a crazy 3. And he made it a 2-point game, 98-96 with 50.7 seconds left to go. One thing the Celtics have struggled with, though, is the later minutes of a game and closing it out. I think that might be a problem against the Warriors, since the Warriors can score 10, 15, 20 points on you in a blink with how well they shoot threes and how well they drive down the lane and how well they rebound. Very physical team. I think the Celtics could struggle with how well the Heat the Warriors can go on runs. They're just such an electric team. And that's the thing. If the Celtics can't close out 13-point leads against a banged-up Heat team with 3 minutes to go in Game 7, I don't know how they can win 4 games in crunch time against the Warriors. But I'll give my predictions for that series in a few. In Game 7, though, the Celtics had some very questionable decisions. With a minute to go, Marcus Smart took a wide-open 3 with around 10 seconds left on the shot clock. Rather than letting the 10 seconds just run out, he jays up a 3, misses it, of course. Miami gets a rebound. Then Jaylen Brown had an offensive foul on a play that he was driving from the corner. And Jaylen Brown tried to get the foul call against Kyle Lowry, ended up fouling Kyle Lowry and elbowing him in the face. And got called for an offensive foul. Celtics lost the challenge. And the Celtics lost the ball as well. And Miami was down 5 at that point with 50 seconds to go. And that's the thing. And then Strus hit a 3 after Jaylen did that. But Jaylen Brown shouldn't have been trying to score there. We should have tried to waste more time since there was still at least 10, 11, 12 seconds left on the shot clock. Gives the ball back to Miami. And then Strus goes right down the floor. Has a crazy 3, which I just described a second ago, makes it a 2-point game. And then with 21 seconds left, once again, Marcus Smart had the ball in his hands with the Celtics up 2 and the shot clock expiring. Tatum, non-existent. Jaylen Brown, non-existent in this moment. When you need the ball in either one of their hands, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, you need the ball in one of their hands at this moment when the Celtics are up 2, 21 seconds left, and a chance to go to the NBA Finals on the line. You want the ball in Tatum or Brown's hands. No excuses. Of course, Marcus Smart's the one with the ball, ends up missing a layup. Jimmy Butler gets the rebound, had the decision of a lifetime to make within a millisecond, running down the court with Al Horford covering him and picking him up at the 3-point line. Butler could have gone for a 2, could have gone for a 3. He opted to go for the 2. Opted to go for the 3 instead of the 2 with 15 seconds left since Miami was down 2. At that moment, he was going for the lead, and he missed. And that's the thing. I feel like if he drove, he's either making the layup because he had some crazy layups, or he's getting the foul call. But that's the thing. That's not how the ball rolls for Miami. Following that, Marcus Smart went to the line with 11 seconds left. Celtics up 2 big free throws. The fate of the Celtics season in Marcus Smart's hands once again. Longest tenured Celtic. I think he's earned the right, I guess, to have the ball in this moment to shoot a couple free throws. Since he hit both of them, he earns the right. Also the longest tenured Celtic. But he hit both free throws. Celtics end up winning by 4. Jimmy Butler had another impressive performance, though. 35 points at 48 minutes of action. No breaks, no minutes off, no time on the bench. Shot 13 of 24 from the field. Added 9 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and only had 1 turnover once again. Bam Adebayo had 25 points, 11 rebounds. Max Strus added 8 points, 5 of his points being in crunch time of the fourth quarter. As for the Celtics, Jason Tatum won the inaugural Larry Bird Award given to the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. Tatum finished Game 7 with 26 points off 9 of 21 shooting, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. Al Horford did not put up huge offensive numbers once again, but contributed to the Celtics winning Game 7 just as much as anyone, and he contributed to the Celtics winning all 3 series that they have so far with his abilities on defense, his abilities rebounding the ball, and his abilities in the paint. Horford finished Game 7 shooting just 2 of 9 from the field. Did add 14 rebounds, though, to go along with a steal and 2 blocks. He had the best plus-minus on the Celtics team with a plus 10 rating, Oladipo actually had the best rating in the game with a plus 16 rating. Jaylen Brown finished Game 7, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Marcus Smart, 24 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 of the biggest free throws of the season, of his career, to send the Celtics to the NBA Finals. He shot 8 of 22 from the field, 3 of 10 from 3, taking 10 threes. I don't think you want Marcus Smart taking 10 threes every game. Celtics end up winning, so I guess you can't complain. But that could be a problem against the Warriors, since if the Celtics don't shoot threes well, that could be a big issue because the Warriors can go on 10-point runs in a blink. I know the Celtics love relying on the 3 and shooting, 43s a game. And if you're not hitting them, it's going to be a problem to keep up with Golden State. Robert Williams exited Game 7 early, but the Celtics still won despite only having 15 minutes of work from him. He wasn't right, though, out there. You could just tell. You could tell he was laboring, trying to push through it. Similar to Tyler Hero. But credit to both the Heat and the Celtics for giving it their all despite all the injuries they had to key players like Jimmy Butler, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, PJ Tucker, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry. They pushed through all of those guys. A lot of respect to both teams for giving it their all in the minutes that mattered most. In Game 5, 6, 7, they were all trying their best for their respective teams. One thing I want to just say, last thing about the Celtics-Heat series, Jimmy Butler truly embodies everything you want in a leader, everything you want in a star basketball player. He gave Miami everything he had, once again, as he always does, and he 100% earned the right to decide to shoot that three with 20 seconds to go instead of going for the two to tie the game with a drive. He earned that right for how well he played in Game 6, how well he played in Game 7, and how much he's given Miami over the last 3 years now. He's earned that right. So, moving on to the NBA Finals. Tip-off is tonight in Game 1 at Golden State, 9 o'clock. I think it'll be a tough series for the Celtics. Despite having the best regular season defensive rating, I still think covering Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins could be tough for Boston. The Warriors, one thing about them, they're a great story. They waited, 1,005 days to have Steph, Klay, and Draymond back on the court together. And even after those 2.5 to 3 years, their dynasty is back. It just proves it never really took a stop. Once all three of those guys were back on the floor, they were finals favorites once again. Like Boston, Golden State is great defensively as well. They finished second in defensive rating in the NBA in the regular season. They're a very physical team, so expect a physical, hard-fought series. They shoot the three very well in Golden State. They finished the regular season 7th in three-point percentage, 36.4%. Celts were below them by about 1%, 35.6% from three. The Celts shot in the regular season. Both teams can rebound very well. The Celts finished 4th in the regular season with 46.1 rebounds per game. The Warriors finished 7th with 45.5 rebounds per game. Head-to-head this season, they're 1-1 versus each other. Before this season, though, the Celtics, which I know Golden State had their injuries, the Celtics won 5 straight contests against the Warriors over the last 3 seasons, heading into this season. And then this season, Celtics split 1-1. Both teams, Golden State and Boston, won their away games. The Celtics lost at home on December 17th, 111-107. Steph Curry had 30 points to go along with 5 rebounds and 4 assists in that game. He did have 6 turnovers in that contest. Golden State will turn the ball over. They were second in the NBA in turnovers per game in the regular season, 14.9 turnovers a game they averaged. They only trailed Houston for the worst mark in the NBA. They didn't have Klay Thompson in that game against the Celtics on December 17th, so factor him in. He definitely makes a difference. Andre Iguodala in that game at 12 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals off the bench for Golden State. As for Celtics, Jason Tatum was 3 of 10 from 3, finished the game with 27 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Jaylen Brown had 20 points, 9 rebounds, 5 turnovers. He turns the ball over a ton, as you saw in the Miami series. Tatum turns the ball over a ton, as you saw in that Miami series. Both of them need to play better and handle the ball better if the Celtics want to win this series against Golden State, since Golden State can really take advantage of your turnovers and just start drilling threes. Marcus Smart in that game on December 17th had 19 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Then they met on March 16th at Golden State. A little bit different of a contest here. The Celtics won 110-88. Tatum and Brown had 26 points apiece. Tatum had 12 rebounds in that match. Marcus Smart had 20 points, 8 assists, shot 4 of 7 from 3, which is a great game from him. And then Derek White was 0 of 8 from the floor, 0 points, 0 from 5 from 3, 0 of 5 from 3. Have to think he has to be better than that. The Celtics definitely need him to shoot better than that. Celtics still won that game by 22, so just shows they can get scoring from a lot of places. Steph Curry did leave that game early with a left foot injury after fighting for a loose ball with Marcus Smart. Steph only finished that game with 3 points and 4 turnovers in 13 minutes of action, which is a ton for him. As I just said, they will turn the ball over a ton, Golden State. It's about how much the Celtics can capitalize on Golden State's turnovers and how much Golden State can capitalize on the Celtics' turnovers. In that game on March 16th, Jordan Poole was 6 of 13 from three-point range, finished the game with 29 points. Klay Thompson at 18 points, shooting just 1 of 11 from 3, though. So had he gone 5 of 11 from 3, would have been a different game, but he had 30 points. But he only shot 1 of 11 from 3. In the Western Conference Finals, the Warriors beat Dallas 4-1 in 5 games. They averaged 115 points per game as a team, allowed only 106 points per game. So they won on average every game by 9 points. The differential between the points they scored and the points they allowed. Steph Curry averaged 25.5 points per game in the regular season. He played in 64 of 82 games in the regular season this year. 2009 Warriors first round pick, 7th overall. The Warriors really built this team from the draft. That's why I think it's really interesting that they can build a team around the draft, just have every guy hit and end up, creating a dynasty for years and years to come. In the Western Conference Finals, Steph averaged 23.8 points per game, off 43.9% shooting from three-point range, averaged 6.6 rebounds per game, 7.4 assists a game, a steal per game as well, and also had 2 blocks in the Western Conference Finals. So he's been playing some defense too. Klay Thompson, in the regular season this year, 32 regular season games, in his return after missing the last 2 seasons with the knee and Achilles injury, averaged 20.4 points per game. The 11th overall pick in the 2011 draft, Golden State Warriors draft pick once again, averaged 18.6 points per game in the Western Conference Finals, around 4 rebounds, 3 assists per game in the Western Conference Finals, and shot 37.5% from 3. Andrew Wiggins, first-time All-Star this year, was a starter in the All-Star game, averaged 18.6 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, and 2.8 assists per game in the Western Conference Finals. He's the only guy, really, that they got in a trade. Everyone else in this Warriors team, for the most part, were the guys they drafted. Jordan Poole, another Warriors draft pick, 2019 first-round pick, at the end of the first round, improved from 12 points per game in the regular season last year to 18 points per game this year in the regular season. He was 18 of 18 from the free throw line in the Western Conference Finals. Actually finished first in the NBA in free throw percentage in the regular season. In the Western Conference Finals, averaged 16 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game, 3.8 assists per game, and 1.2 steals per game. So he gets in on the defensive end and can score as well. He has on both ends. Draymond Green, another Warriors draft pick, 2012 second-round pick, averaged 7 in the regular season, 10.6 points per game in the Western Conference Finals, to go along with 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists per game, and a block per game. Kevon Looney, once again another Warriors draft pick, 2015 first-round pick, played very well for the Warriors in the playoffs this year. Averaged 10.6 points per game, 10.6 rebounds per game, and 3 assists per game in the Western Conference Finals. The Warriors really built this team from the draft over the last decade and a half now. Besides Wiggins, really, who they got in a trade in Otto Porter Jr., everyone else in this Warriors team were draft picks. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Kevon Looney, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody were both 21 first-round picks by the Warriors in the top 15. Both those guys contribute off the bench. James Wiseman, another Warriors draft pick. So the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, 1-7 over Miami, which I highlighted a little bit earlier. They averaged 105 points per game, allowed only 99.7 points per game. So the Celtics defense was really on in that series against the Heat. Tatum averaged 25 points per game in the Eastern Conference Finals, 8.3 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game, just over a steal per game, and had 4.71 turnovers per game. So he's got to get that rate down, which I'm going to give you guys a bunch of stats as I've been giving you, just to, preview the series. Jaylen Brown, 24.1 points per game in the Eastern Conference Finals, to go along with around 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3.28 turnovers per game. Shot 72% from the free throw line. He's got to be better than that. 72% in the Eastern Conference Finals. Celtics did win that series, obviously, so at least it didn't come down to free throws for the reason why we lost. But they have to be better. Jaylen has to be better at the free throw line in this Warriors series. Marcus Smart, 16.6 points per game, just over 6 rebounds, just over 6 assists per game, and averaged over a steal per game in the Eastern Conference Finals, and shot 28.9% from 3. I don't want him taking as many threes as he does, but obviously Celtics still won that series. So as I said, all these things I'm giving a lot of credit on, things like Tatum's turnovers, Jaylen Brown's free throws, and Marcus Smart's three-pointers. All those are negatives, obviously, but Celtics still won the series and just have to improve now in the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. Al Horford averaged 9.8 points per game, 10 rebounds to go along with 3.7 assists per game, and 2 blocks per game in the Eastern Conference Finals. He did snap the longest active streak, or the longest streak ever, actually, for most playoff games appeared in before reaching the NBA Finals. 141 games it took Al Horford to reach the NBA Finals, but he finally did it. It ended up being a big piece for this Celtics team the whole season, and really was a steal of a trade in that Kemba Walker trade, considering the fact that he was a missing piece we needed. So credit to Brad Stevens for seeing that trade and seeing it as a way for the Celtics to improve. Robert Williams averaged 9 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game in the Eastern Conference Finals. He's currently questionable for tonight's game. Hopefully he's healthy. The Celtics need him. As of now, my predictions, I would have had Warriors in 5 had I done this, earlier in the week. Today, I think I'll go Warriors in 6, since the Celtics did play very well in the playoffs after losing games. After losses, the Celtics are 6-0 in the postseason. So clearly Ime Udoka does very well in the locker room after losses. But at the end of the day, I think the Warriors' shooting abilities may be tough to defend for the Celtics. I think the Warriors will take Game 1 and Game 2. I think the Celtics will take Game 3 at home. The Warriors will take Game 4 in Boston. The Celtics will take Game 5. And then the Warriors will win in Boston in Game 6. I'm rooting for the Celtics since I'm a Celtics fan, obviously. I like the Clippers as well, which I'll cover a ton on this closer to next season. But I give honest takes. I give honest opinions. If I had to bet right now, I would go Warriors in 6. But I'm rooting for the Celtics, as I said. Moving on to the IIHF Men's World Hockey Championship Tournament. Team USA lost to Czechia in the bronze medal game. Team USA was competing for a medal for the 6th time in the last 9 World Championship tournaments. Going into this game, I knew it would be a high-scoring game since the USA gets a lot of shots up. They outshot 7 of 8 opponents before the semifinal game. But playing against the high-powered Czech team ended up being too much for USA Hockey as they failed to bring home any hardware. They played against David Pastrnak, David Krejci. David Krejci actually was on Pasternak's story on Instagram. Pastrnak asked, are you coming back to Boston? He gave a smile, so we'll see if he's coming back to the Boston Bruins. I know everyone around here, all the Bruins fans would be psyched. I'd be psyched as well. Krejci's definitely a missing piece that the Bruins could have used this year. Team USA was blown out 8-4, being outscored 6-1 in the third period by the Czechia club. The Bruins' young goaltender, Jeremy Swayman, had a tough game in net for Team USA. Team USA was up 3-2 after 2 periods before Czechia exploded in the third period. David Pastrnak had a third-period hat trick. He moved to the second line for the third period and went off, exploding for 3 goals to hand Czechia its first medal since 2012, actually. So congratulations to the Czechia team and David Pastrnak. Maple Leafs center David Kampf added 2 third-period goals for Czechia as well. David Krejci assisted Pastrnak on a goal. Nice to see them still have chemistry. Clearly hasn't died off. As for Team USA, the Americans were up 3-1 after the first period. Former Northeastern University hockey legend Adam Gaudette, in 2018 Hobie Baker winner as well. Adam Gaudette was spectacular this whole tournament for Team USA. Scored in the second period of this bronze medal game, assisted by former BC Eagle Matt Boldy. Gaudette was the player of the game for the team for the USA squad 2 times in the tournament. Was named one of 3 stars by Team USA for the tournament, with Jeremy Swayman and Seth Jones, the USA captain, and defenseman being the other. Carson Kuhlman was strong for the U.S., scored 2 goals in the first period of the bronze medal game. Jeremy Swayman stopped 26 of 33 shots faced, but had a disastrous collapse in the third period. And Team USA's issues really had to do with defense. They really only had 4 healthy defensemen for the bronze medal game. They only carried 7 defensemen, and were down 3 of them in the bronze medal game after defenseman Jacob Megna left for a family emergency. So Team USA had to use Sam Lafferty for the last 2 games on defense, who was a forward. I guess he played a little defense when he was younger, but he had to play on defense, and also forward Riley Barber was forced to play defense as well for USA Hockey. They only had 4 real defensemen going into the final game. They did have a very strong first defensive pairing with Seth Jones and Luke Hughes, 2 very good players, a veteran and also a young stud in Luke Hughes. Team USA was forced to play with only 4 defensemen. That's not easy to do. Team USA was supposed to have another Northeastern legend, Jordan Harris, to play defense but according to NHL analyst Chris Peters, they never registered him, I guess. Team USA never registered him and chose to add more forwards instead to the roster and didn't have enough room to add him afterwards. So a mistake by USA Hockey to not add Jordan Harris and register him correctly. He would have been a huge addition considering how well he plays with his skates, how fast he is, and he can play more shifts on less rest. So if you only have 5 defensemen and he's the 5th one, you'd be fine since he can play so many shifts, a lot more than other guys, and doesn't take too much time off. David Krejci finished the tournament with 3 goals, 9 assists for 12 points total in 10 games. He can still play clearly. Finished 5th in the tournament for points, 3rd in face-off percentage with 62.3% of his face-offs won. David Pastrnak had 7 goals, 3 assists, 10 points in 7 games, tied with Team Canada, a few Team Canada players for most goals with 7. Dylan Cousins being one of those guys. Cousins I'll mention in a few seconds about the Finland-Canada Finals game. Jeremy Swayman finished the tournament 8th among goalies with a 90.97 save percentage, 7th among goalies with a 2.23 goals against average, and also had a couple shutouts as well. He had a couple shutouts, so he wasn't a bad goal. He played very well for the most part, just a very tough third period against Czechia. Adam Gaudette, my favorite hockey player, finished the tournament with 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 total points in 10 games with Team USA. He also just announced on his Instagram that he's also having a baby, so congrats to him and his wife. It was nice just to see Adam Gaudette get playing time and be set up for the playmaker he is. He's a great playmaker. I was happy the USA team really was looking for him to score goals in the slot. And that's just what he does best. He had a goal and assist, including the game-winning goal in overtime against Sweden. He scored 3 points against Bruins goalie Linus Ullmark in that game. Ullmark and Swayman did do their post-game ritual of hugging. A very nice moment, even though they were on different teams in the World Championships, to still show the bond that they have. Gaudette, though, played very well. It's nice just to see him get credit and get opportunities to score goals, because that's what he's great at. That's what he was electric with at Northeastern. So happy to see him get opportunities to score. Looking forward to him hopefully having a big season coming up. I know if he stays at that pace like he was for USA in the tournament, any team in the NHL could use him and his abilities. So congratulations to Gaudette on a great tournament. So happy to see him representing United States hockey. And he played very well, so he's got nothing to be disappointed about. Former Minnesota Gophers forward Ben Myers had 4 goals and 4 assists for the USA squad. And then former BU and New York Rangers head coach David Quinn coached Team USA. Had Hopkinton native and Harvard left winger Sean Farrell on the squad as well. So Massachusetts hockey was very well represented. You had Adam Gaudette from Braintree, Matt Boldy from Millville, Mass., Sean Farrell from Hopkinton, and Jordan Harris, who should have been in the active roster from Haverhill, and then also David Quinn, who coached BU hockey. So Boston hockey programs were represented very well with Northeastern and BC guys being on the squad, and then also Sean Farrell playing for Harvard, and then obviously David Quinn being the head coach for BU for years as well. So in the finals, Finland versus Canada was the finals matchup. Canada won the tournament 28 times. Finland only 3 times. Finland actually earned their 4th championship title on home ice in Finland, defeating Canada 4-3 in overtime. Sakari Manninen scored the game-winning goal in overtime for Finland. Finland trailed 1-0 after a Team Canada goal from former Buffalo Sabres 2019 first-round pick, Dylan Cousins. He scored a goal in the first period, his 7th goal of the tournament. He was assisted by Islanders star forward Matt Barzal. Finland responded by scoring 3 straight goals, 2 by former 2010 Minnesota Wild first-round pick and current Nashville Predators center Michael Granlund. Finland was up 3-1 with 6 minutes to go, ended up surrendering 2 Canadian goals in the last 3 minutes of regulation. Still got the W in OT, but they definitely didn't finish that strong in the third period. They should have held on to that, didn't even need an OT. But credit to them. Congratulations to Finland on a great tournament. They played very well, ended up winning it. So credit to them. Hats off to them. One last player I wanted to highlight was French goalie Henri Corentin Brice. In the 4 games he played, had a 1.76 goals against average, which was 4th in the tournament, and also had a 93 93.14% save percentage, which was fourth as well. France proved to definitely be better than they were in the past few years. I know the past few years have been very tough for them. They were very uncompetitive. But they showed a lot of progress this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play in the World Championships again next year. I never really followed this tournament ever until this year, really. And I only got into it because Adam Gaudette and Jordan Harris were on the USA squad. And as I said before, I'm a big Northeastern hockey fan. Roll skis, shout out Mark Walsh, a legend. Shout out my boy Peter Amara, the biggest Northeastern hockey fan I know. Team Canada ended up finishing first in the IIHF men's tournament with 47 goals in 10 games. Great Britain finished last of the 16 teams in the tournament with 10 goals in 7 games. And the France was second to last with 11 goals, and Italy was third to last with 12 goals. I just like naming all the countries, seeing all these countries compete in a world tournament. I think is really cool, so happy I could highlight them. Quick update in the NHL playoffs. The Orioles lost game 1 a couple nights ago. Tonight is game 2. Just an hour or so ago now. Avalanche starting goalie Darcy Kempfer was ruled out for the game with an upper body injury. So that leaves backup Avalanche goalie Pavel Francouz to be the starter for them tonight. Watch a little bit of his highlights, actually. Looks to be a really good goalie. He was player of the week, actually, in the 2020 season, or 2021 season, I believe, at one point. It might have been February of 2020. He was player of the week at one point, or goalie of the week. So, he's clearly got some abilities. In game 1, Connor McDavid did score a goal at 2 assists. Leon Draisaitl at 2 assists as well, but it wasn't enough. Former Orioles first-round pick Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had a goal and assist as well, but it wasn't enough for the Orioles to win. Tough game for Orioles goalie Mike Smith in net. He only had 19 saves on 25 shots faced, allowing 6 goals. As for the Avalanche, Cam Makar had a goal and 2 assists, who I highlighted last episode. JT Compher had 2 goals. Mikko Rantanen, who I highlighted in my NHL special also, had a goal and an assist. And then Nathan McKinnon had a goal and assist also. Nazem Kadri, who I talked about also, scored a goal for the Avalanche. And then Darcy Kempfer in net. Kemper really struggled, allowing 3 goals and 16 shots faced. Not a great night for him in net for the Avalanche either. But it was a very high-scoring game like we knew it would be and like I predicted. I think the Orioles rebound tonight, win 5-3. Considering it was 7-4. After the first 2 periods in Game 1, the Avalanche were up 7-4. I don't see it being as high scoring. You got to think that was just a bad night for the Orioles, for a bad night for Mike Smith and net. I think they can recover well tonight. I think they win. I see a little bit more defense. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I see a little bit more defense. Moving on really quick to the Rangers series. Last night was Game 1 in New York. At Madison Square Garden, the Rangers defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning 6-2, blew them out. The Lightning, who swept the Florida Panthers, they had a week off, which isn't always the best thing since, it's a lot of time off for guys and guys can get rusty. Andre Palat and Steven Stamkos had the only Tampa Bay Lightning goals. It wasn't Andrei Vasilevsky's best night in the net either, surrendering 6 goals and 34 save opportunities. For the Rangers, Philip Hedl won the number 1 star of the game for them, and rightfully so. Scored 2 goals in his only 2 shots on goal. Rangers defenseman Adam Fox had a couple assists as well. And then Artemi Panarin, Mike Zibanejad, and Frank Vetrano all had a goal and assist apiece for 2 points each in the game. I highlight all of them actually in the NHL special also. And then Chris Kreider, former BC Eagle, scored a goal as well. So nice to see them start strong. I did have Tampa Bay winning the series, which I still do have Tampa Bay winning the series. I still think they recover well and win Game 2. But Chris Kreider scoring a goal, happy for him. BC hockey guys making plays in the biggest moments. Igor Shesterkin was filthy in net for the Rangers, stopping 37 of 39 shots faced for a 94.9% save percentage. He was really the only goalie that had a good night of all the other 3 goalies that played in the conference finals games. With Vasilevsky having 82.4% save percentage, Kempa only having an 81.2% save percentage, and then Mike Smith having a 76% save percentage. Igor Shesterkin was the only one that really had a good night in Game 1 for both series. Oilers backup goalie, though, Mikko Koskinen did play well in relief of Smith, stopping 20 of 21 shots. Just want to highlight that. But I still see Tampa Bay winning this series. I think in my original prediction might have been 5 games. I'll change that to 6 now. So I got the Orioles in 6 still, and I got Tampa Bay in 6 still. But credit to the Rangers, very resilient team, very hard-fought team. They always give it their all, winning 2 straight series in Game 7. So they'll be a tough out for sure, and I'm sure Tampa Bay realizes that now as well, too. Just a couple other quick things I want to highlight about the Celtics-Warriors series. This is the 6th trip for the Warriors in the last 8 years to the NBA Finals. They went 5 straight years, actually, from 2015 to 2019, had a 3-2 record series-wise over that 5-year stretch. They did miss the last 2 years of the playoffs with injuries. The Celtics, though, I see struggling in this series. They couldn't close out against the Heat until Game 7, a banged-up Heat team that couldn't shoot, and then a Bucks team who couldn't shoot either, took 7 games. Now, facing a Warriors team that can shoot and make you pay, I think it could be tough. Warriors in 6 is my guess, but it definitely could go either way. The Celtics have relied on losing games to wake up, to use it to wake up when their backs are against the wall. But I think this matchup could be tough for Boston. ESPN's Basketball Power Index did give the Celtics an 86% chance of winning over the Warriors. Warriors at 14%, which is really impressive of a stat. 123 games of NBA Finals experience for the Warriors compared to the Celtics 0 experience. Will come into play, I think, in the end of games, since the Warriors know how to make big-time shots, and the Celtics at the end of games have been really struggling to really get quality shots up. I saw a stat today on NBC Sports Boston, and the final 3 minutes of the fourth quarter this postseason, Jason Tatum's 10 of 17 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3. Jaylen Brown, 6 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3. And Marcus Smart's 3 of 20 from the floor and 0 of 8 from 3 in the final 3 minutes of the fourth quarter this postseason, in games this postseason. So Jason Tatum having 20 shots compared to Jaylen Brown's 13 and Jason Tatum's 17. That's a big worry for me, for the Celtics especially. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for the Celtics, especially considering Marcus Smart hasn't been too great in the latter minutes of games. In the last few minutes of games, he just hasn't been clutch at all. 3 of 20 from the floor, as I said, which is a worry for me. Mike Breen missed Game 7 of the Celtics-Heat series with COVID. I believe he is out again tonight. And now Jeff Van Gundy today tested positive for COVID as well. So I believe they're both out tonight, will not be broadcasting the game. Mark Jones and Mark Jackson will be calling the game tonight, which is tough, not having Breen, such a legend. And then Jeff Van Gundy's great in the booth as well. Tough loss there. Tomorrow I'm going to come back out with a highlight of how the CAA tournament went for Northeastern Baseball, and then preview the NCAA baseball bracket. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time. Hope you guys have a great night. Go Celts. Best of luck to the Celts. Hopefully they can bring home a big Game 1 win, and I can maybe even recap it tomorrow briefly if it were to go well. Thank you guys so much again. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Take it easy.